Who was this woman? The question echoes in Ethan Thorne's mind, a silent, stunned query, almost drowned out by the symphony of the elite. For now, it was a mystery suspended beneath the dazzling glare of crystal chandeliers in the Astor's ballroom at the St. Regis, New York, where light cascaded over elegant black tuxedos and magnificent gowns that shimmered like a man-made galaxy. The tinkle of clinking glasses, the smooth strains of classic jazz, and a multilingual buzz of conversations wove together a tapestry of influence and authority. Ethan Thorne, CEO of the multi-billion-dollar global tech conglomerate Thorne Industries, stood at the epicenter of this annual gala, an event orchestrated by his own company. At 43, with his neatly trimmed dark brown hair, intelligent blue eyes, and tall frame, Ethan was the epitome of success. But tonight, that composed exterior was a fragile mask over the simmering stress within. The crystal chandeliers of the Astor Ballroom at the St. Regis New York Hotel cast a starry sky over the elegant black tuxedos and gorgeous evening gowns. The clinking of glasses, the soft strum of classical jazz, and the murmur of conversation in multiple languages created a symphony of wealth and power. Ethan Thorne, CEO of Thorne Industries, a multi-billion-dollar multinational technology conglomerate, stood at the center of his company's annual event. At 43, with his neatly trimmed dark brown hair, intelligent blue eyes, and tall frame, Ethan was the epitome of success. But tonight, his calm exterior was a thin mask that hid the seething tension inside. A multi-million-dollar deal with a potential international partner was hanging in the balance, and his executives, who were paid handsomely to shine in situations like this, seemed to be doing everything they could to sabotage it. He glanced at James Covington, the director of international sales, who was trying clumsily to communicate with Kenji Tanaka, an older, somewhat conservative investor from Tokyo. Sweat beaded on Covington's forehead, despite the perfectly regulated room temperature. Beside Ethan, Isabella Izzy Rossi stood silently. In the form-fitting emerald green silk dress that Ethan had personally picked out for her a few days earlier, she looked surprisingly beautiful. Her long black hair was pulled back into a neat bun, revealing a slender neck and small diamond earrings that were part of the deal. Izzy, 29, was a classic Italian beauty with large, intelligent dark brown eyes and long lashes. But there was something uneasy about her demeanor, a keen wariness in her gaze as she surveyed the crowd. Ethan sighed inwardly, a flash of regret, desperation. It was the only word that could describe why he had hired the daughter of Maria Rossi, his office's dedicated janitor, to act as his girlfriend for this important evening. She was so different, so real, from the flashy, superficial women he usually hung out with. Thorne-san, Mr. Tanaka's voice rang out, pulling Ethan out of his thoughts. He spoke in a long, complicated Japanese, peppered with business jargon, clearly asking a pointed question about Thorne Industries' Asian expansion strategy. Ethan held his breath. Here it was. Covington, who had always boasted about his N2 level of Japanese, swallowed hard. He stammered. Hi, Tanaka-sama. Our strategy is very good for Asia. Mr. Tanaka's face hardened. An awkward silence fell over their small group. Ethan felt his heart sink into his stomach. The golden opportunity was slipping away. He was about to intervene, trying to salvage the situation with the little Japanese he had learned from crash courses, when a soft, clear voice spoke up beside him. Shiri itashimasu Tianjongyang. Sorry, Mr. Tanaka? Izzy said, her voice precise to every syllable, perfect intonation. ソ・オン社ちゃんがおっしゃりたいのは、弊社の市場拡大戦略は、特に日本の文化的なニュアンスと長期的な関係構築を重視しており、短期的な利益追求よりも持続可能な成長を目指しているということかと存じます。I think what Chairman Thorne means is that our market expansion strategy places a strong emphasis on Japanese cultural nuances and building long-term relationships, aiming for sustainable growth rather than short-term profits. She not only translated it skillfully, but also added a thoughtful perspective, ending with an old Japanese proverb about the importance of patience and foresight. Qianli no dao mo ibo kara, A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. The silence now took on a completely different tone. It was no longer awkward, but stunned. Mr. Tanaka, who was notorious for being difficult, blinked, and then a rare but genuine smile lit up his face. "Wonderful," he exclaimed, looking at Izzy with admiration. "Your Japanese is perfect. And that deep understanding." Ethan turned to look at Izzy, his mouth hanging open. His other executives shared the same expression of disbelief. Covington looked as if he had been struck by lightning. You speak Japanese?" Ethan stammered, his voice cracking. Izzy just smiled softly, a quiet but slightly mischievous smile. A little, "Sir," before Ethan could gather his wits or anyone else could ask any more questions. Anja Weber, a powerful German businesswoman and CEO of a leading Berlin engineering firm, was drawn into the conversation. She approached, her eyes assessing Izzy. "Faszinierend," she said, then switched to German, asking a complex question about a technology patent Thorn Industries was developing. Undeterred, Izzy responded in fluent German, discussing the technical aspects with surprising confidence and knowledge. "Mrs. Weber, I understand your concerns about scalability, but our tests show that..." Ethan stood there, completely dumbfounded. A feeling of shock washed over him. This was not the girl he thought he had hired. Who was this girl, and why? Why was she able to do these extraordinary things? Things that his senior management team, with their prestigious MBAs and decades of experience, could not do. What secret was hidden behind the simple appearance of the office cleaner's daughter? 2 weeks earlier, Ethan Thorne had been sitting in his plush penthouse office, looking out at the glittering Manhattan skyline, but his mind was heavy. Pressure was mounting on him from all sides. The board had hinted at a recent meeting that they wanted to see him settle down, a euphemism for having a spouse. A solid family image would be good for the company. "Ethan, especially as we prepare for this big international fundraising," the board chairman, Mr. Henderson, had said. His mother, Eleanor Thorne, an influential figure in New York society, had been calling him, setting him up with one partner after another. His most recent relationship, with a young model named Tiffany who seemed more interested in his credit cards and red carpet appearances than he was in himself, had just ended in a tumultuous argument and nasty tabloid headlines. The annual Thorn Industries party, a key event for showcasing success and cementing relationships, was approaching, and he needed a companion, and not just anyone. He needed someone smart, discreet, elegant, and, most importantly, not a troublemaker. His usual options were no longer appealing. The women in his social circle seemed to fit a stereotype: beautiful, ambitious, and constantly looking for a relationship with him. He was tired of the pretense, the empty conversations and empty smiles. He craved something real, if only for an evening. Meanwhile, in another corner of Thorn Industries, Maria Rossi laboriously pushed a cleaning cart down the marble hallway. She had worked for the company for more than a decade, a widowed Italian woman, hardworking and quiet. Ethan knew her, occasionally nodding when they passed each other when he stayed late at the office. She always responded with a gentle smile and a respectful nod. Lately, Ethan had begun to notice her daughter, Isabella, or Izzy as her mother called her. Sometimes the young girl would come over to help her mother clean late at night or on weekends. Izzy often brought books, thick, hardcover books, not the usual romance novels. Once, as he passed the break room, he overheard her talking on the phone. Her voice was deep and lilting, and he recognized it as Italian. Perfect Italian, as if she had been born and raised in Florence. Izzy Rossi is a special case. She holds a master's degree in linguistics and international relations with honors from Columbia University. After graduating, she had a promising job at an international NGO where she could apply her knowledge and passion for languages. But then, a sudden budget cut cost her her job. Since then, Izzy has been doing all sorts of temporary jobs, tutoring English for foreigners, translating for small freelance projects, helping her mother at Thorn Industries to make ends meet, help her mother pay off an unexpected medical debt, and, most importantly, save up for an advanced course in conference interpreting that she has always dreamed of. She feels a little unsteady, But her passion and determination have never dimmed. One Tuesday evening, just after 8, Ethan was still in the office, his mind racing with financial reports and the stress of the upcoming party. He went to get a glass of water and found Izzy cleaning the reception area. She had her headphones on, humming to a tune, and was still wiping the shiny glass. Next to her cart, a French novel by Victor Hugo was open. In a moment of impulse, desperation, and perhaps a little curiosity, a crazy thought occurred to Ethan. He stepped forward. "Miss Rossi!" Izzy jumped, quickly taking off her headphones. "Mr. Thorne, I'm sorry. I didn't hear you." "It's okay," Ethan said, trying to keep his voice casual. "I have a little unusual favor to ask of you." He took a deep breath. "My company is having an important party, and I need someone to go with. A companion." He looked straight into Izzy's eyes. "I want to hire you, just for one evening, to pretend to be my girlfriend." Izzy blinked, stunned, her cheeks flushed. "What? What did you say?" Ethan explained the situation quickly, not going into personal details, emphasizing only that he wanted someone polite, intelligent, and discreet. He gave a figure. $10,000? For one evening, just show up, smile, chat a little, if necessary. Nothing else. $10,000. The amount of money stunned Izzy. It would solve so many of her problems, her mother's problems. It was almost half the tuition for her translation course. But what about her dignity pretending to be the CEO's girlfriend? It sounded ridiculous. But then reality kicked in. This was a job, a role. She hadn't done anything wrong. After a moment of silent deliberation, Izzy looked up at Ethan, her gaze firm. "Okay, Mr. Thorne, I agree, but there are a few conditions." She listed them clearly: absolute respect, no intimate acts without her consent, and absolute confidentiality. This was strictly a business agreement. Ethan breathed a sigh of relief and agreed immediately. He didn't expect her to be so practical and professional. The next few days were a preparation. Ethan took Izzy to a high-end fashion store on Fifth Avenue. He was prepared for a lot of consulting, but Izzy surprised him. She had exquisite taste and knew what looked good on her. She chose a jade green silk dress, a few simple but luxurious accessories. When she emerged from the dressing room, Ethan couldn't help but admit that she was beautiful, a natural, effortless beauty. He also gave her a rundown of Thorne Industries and the important people she might meet at the party. During those brief training sessions, they had conversations that went beyond work. Ethan discovered that Izzy was intelligent, observant, and knowledgeable in many areas. Izzy, in turn, saw that beneath Ethan's cold, authoritative exterior was a man with his own pressures, and sometimes a dry sense of humor. A quiet respect began to form between them, though neither of them said it out loud. And then, that fateful party arrived. Ethan had no idea that the role he had hired for only $10,000 was about to bring him one of the biggest surprises of his life. After an impressive exchange in German with Anja Weber, who was extremely pleased and promised to take a closer look at Thorne Industries' proposal, the atmosphere around Ethan's group changed completely. The initial surprise gave way to curiosity and admiration. Jean-Pierre Dubois, a suave French investor and an old friend of Ethan's father, was also intrigued. He approached, a charming smile on his face. "Mademoiselle," said Mr. Dubois, his French accent charming. "I could not help overhearing the interesting conversation. Your gift of language is remarkable. Would you mind sharing something in Moliere's language?" Izzy smiled, a charming smile lighting up her face. She switched to French, her voice smooth as velvet. "Monsieur Dubois, it's a pleasure to meet you. I've always admired the richness of French culture, especially literature and art." The conversation quickly turned to Impressionist painters, then to classic French films. Mr. Dubois, a connoisseur of art, was delighted and impressed by Izzy's depth of knowledge. Ethan stood by, feeling like he was watching a magic show. Every time Izzy opened her mouth, a new language flowed naturally and flawlessly. Throughout the evening, she amazed everyone. When a potential partner from Madrid, Mr. Rodriguez, arrived. Izzy greeted him in perfect Spanish. Buenas noches, señor Rodriguez. Es un honor tenerlo aquí con nosotros. Good evening, Mr. Rodriguez. It is an honor to have you with us. They had a brief but fruitful exchange about the potential of the Latin American market. Next, an investor from São Paulo, Ms. Almeida, also met with Izzy in fluent Portuguese, discussing the similarities and differences between Brazilian and American business cultures. Senhora Almeida, a sua visão sobre as economies emergentes é muito perspicaz. Ms. Almeida, your vision for emerging economies is profound. When a young businessman from Shanghai, who was traveling with a trade delegation, seemed a little lost, Izzy took the initiative to strike up a conversation with him in a few basic but polite Mandarin sentences. Enough to break the ice. The young businessman was clearly grateful. By this point, Ethan's executives were running the gamut from shock to embarrassment at their own incompetence to undisguised admiration. Except for Marcus Vance, the marketing director, a self-centered, egotistical jerk. Ethan caught the hateful, envious look Vance was giving Izzy. Clearly, Izzy's sudden success had overshadowed the self-proclaimed communications star. Ethan was completely captivated. No, he was stunned. He looked at Izzy with a whole new light. This was no longer the janitor's daughter or the temporary girlfriend. In front of him was an extraordinary woman, an uncut gem. Her intelligence, charm, flexibility, and vast knowledge shone brightly. He felt a deep shame creeping in for his initial short-sighted judgment. He had focused too much on her background and overlooked the person inside. He began to observe her more closely, the way she listened attentively to each person she spoke to, the way she asked intelligent, probing questions, the quiet confidence that radiated from her every gesture, every word. There was no pretense or self-satisfaction, just sincerity and a pure passion for language and communication. A powerful attraction, different from the fleeting feelings he had felt, began to grow within him. It was not just admiration for talent, but deep respect and something much warmer and gentler. In a moment when the crowd thinned around them, when the international guests were being greeted by the other directors, now somewhat more confident after Izzy's enlightenment, Ethan gently took Izzy's elbow. "Can we go out on the balcony for a moment?" The balcony overlooked Central Park, the November air chilly but crisp. Izzy crossed her arms, shivering slightly. Ethan took off his tuxedo jacket and draped it over her shoulders. It was a casual gesture, but it made Izzy's heart flutter. "Izzy," Ethan began, his voice deeper than usual. You're incredible. 9 languages. Right? I counted Japanese, German, French, Spanish, Portuguese, Mandarin, and the Italian I heard you speak on the phone. What 2 more languages don't I know? Izzy smiled. Russian and some basic conversational Arabic. I learned it when I worked for an NGO, doing projects in Eastern Europe and the Middle East. She looked up at him, her eyes sincere. Why haven't I said anything actually? No one has asked, and there's never been a good time. Mr. Thorne. It's just what I like, what I've learned. And right now, helping my mother, and then temporary jobs, are the priority. Her modesty impressed Ethan even more. "Please call me Ethan," he said softly. "And I think, Izzy, we have a lot to talk about." He wanted to know more about her, about the dreams and ambitions hidden behind her plain exterior. A sudden, powerful, and promising connection crept between them, amid the rustle of the night wind and the twinkling lights of New York. Izzy showed up at Ethan Thorne's office at 7:45 on Monday morning. As scheduled, she was dressed in a simple white blouse, a gray pencil skirt, and a tailored blazer. Her dark hair was pulled back into a neat ponytail. She looked professional and a far cry from the glamour of the evening. Ethan was waiting. He invited her to sit down, pouring her a cup of tea himself. "Izzy, thanks again for Saturday night," he began, his voice sincere. "You not only saved the evening, but probably a big deal, maybe even more. Mr. Tanaka called me Sunday morning, very impressed. So was Mrs. Weber. He slid an envelope across the table. "Here's the amount we agreed on." Izzy took it, a little embarrassed. "Thanks, Ethan." $10,000? It was still a lot of money. But after what had happened, it no longer seemed to have its original meaning. Ethan looked at her, his eyes serious. "Izzy, you have exceeded all expectations. Your talents are invaluable. Thorn Industries needs people like you." He leaned back in his chair. "I would like to offer you a permanent position within the company. Senior International Relations Specialist, or perhaps Special Assistant directly to me, focusing on cross-cultural communications and new market development. The salary, of course, will be commensurate with your abilities and contributions." He gave Izzy a figure that made her eyes widen in surprise. It was much higher than any job she had ever held. Izzy was completely taken aback. An opportunity like this was something she had always dreamed of, but it had come so quickly, so suddenly. She felt a mixture of joy and confusion. "Ethan, I really don't know what to say. This is a great honor." She took a deep breath. "But I need time to think. I don't want to take this job just because you're grateful, or because of what happened at the party. I want to make sure this is the right thing for both of us, and that I can actually live up to the expectations." Ethan nodded, respecting her decision. "Of course. Izzy, think it over. But I hope you know that this offer is based entirely on your true abilities." In the following days, Ethan began to find excuses to see Izzy. He invited her to lunch a few times, under the pretext of discussing further job offers and potential projects. But they both understood that those meetings were not purely business. They talked about everything under the sun, their favorite books, classic movies, dream trips, and their views on life and work. Ethan discovered Izzy to be funny, intelligent, and thoughtful. She was opinionated, not afraid to debate an issue with him, but always in a respectful and open-minded manner. He found himself laughing more when he was with her, feeling a sense of ease and comfort that he had not felt in a long time. The initial attraction to her talent was now compounded by a mutual understanding of her. He realized he was falling for this special girl. As for Izzy, she also gradually opened up to Ethan. She saw that he was not just a cold, distant CEO, like she had always imagined people in his position to be. Ethan had an underlying warmth, a genuine concern for those around him. And most importantly, he respected her as an independent individual, not as a janitor's daughter or someone he favored. Subtle, sweet vibrations began to creep into her heart, even though she tried to tell herself that she needed to keep her distance, that their relationship was too different. Mrs. Maria Rossi, with the sensitivity of a mother, quickly realized the change in her daughter and the special attention Ethan paid to Izzy. Every time Ethan stopped by her work area to accidentally ask about Izzy, the big boss's eyes looked at her daughter with an undisguised tenderness. Mrs. Maria said nothing, just smiled silently and secretly wished the best for her beloved daughter. However, not everyone at Thorn Industries was happy with Izzy's sudden rise. Marcus Vance, the marketing director, who had always considered himself the star of the company's external events, felt his position was seriously threatened. The sight of Izzy shining at the party, easily doing things that he had struggled to achieve, or even could not, made Vance extremely angry and jealous. He could not stand the attention and public praise that Ethan gave Izzy. With his narrow-minded and scheming nature, Vance began to secretly investigate Izzy. It wasn't difficult for him to discover her true identity, the daughter of a janitor, and through a few hints from nosy employees who had witnessed Ethan taking Izzy shopping, he vaguely guessed the initial deal between them. Marcus Vance began spreading malicious rumors. He didn't say it outright, but he would hint to his colleagues over lunch and drinks. "That Rossi girl is really talented, but she's so sudden I heard our CEO has been interested in her for a long time. So there must be a reason." Or, "The janitor's daughter is so favored. It's definitely not just because of a few words of foreign language. These days, taking shortcuts is also a kind of talent." Whispers, scrutinizing glances, and meaningful smiles began to appear in the company whenever Izzy passed by. They were like invisible needles stabbing at her self-esteem. At first, Izzy tried to ignore them, telling herself that she had done nothing wrong. But the rumors spread more and more, becoming more and more vicious. That she used tricks to seduce the CEO, that she had no real talent but was just lucky to have Ethan's attention, that she was a gold digger looking to change her life. Hurt and doubt began to invade Izzy's mind. Did Ethan really see her potential, or was he just trying to make up for the initial deal? Or worse, did he have other intentions? She began to remember his eyes, his gestures. Was that concern genuine, or was she just another pastime for the rich CEO? Fear and insecurity made Izzy gradually distance herself from Ethan. Conversations became awkward, smiles became forced. The budding love was at risk of being extinguished by malicious gossip. After many days of torment and tossing and turning, Izzy could not bear it any longer. The rumors were like a dark cloud haunting her, tarnishing even the sincere moments she and Ethan had shared. She decided to face it, to clear things up. She could not live in doubt and could not accept a job, a relationship built on a shaky foundation. She arranged to meet Ethan at the end of the workday. Once they were alone in his large office, Izzy took a deep breath, trying to calm herself. "Ethan, there's been some talk around the company about me and about us." Ethan frowned. "What is it? Izzy, can you elaborate?" Izzy's voice was shaky, but her eyes were steady. "They said that I use tricks to get to you, that I'm not really talented, that you favor me for ulterior motives." She recounted the rumors she'd heard, leaving out every detail, even though it hurt her to repeat them. Tears began to well up in her eyes, but she fought back the urge. "Is that the real reason you offered me this job? Ethan, because you feel guilty about our original deal, or because you wanted to silence the rumors by giving me a permanent position?" The last question came out, carrying all the hurt and fear of being taken advantage of. Ethan was stunned. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. His face was dark, not with anger at Izzy, but with a burning rage at whoever had done this. He stood up and paced the room, clenching his fists. Who said those things? I don't know exactly who started it, but Marcus Vance seemed to enjoy seeing me in trouble," Izzy said quietly. The name Marcus Vance was a trigger. Ethan remembered Vance's jealous gaze at the party. He had underestimated the man's despicability. He turned, looking straight into Izzy's eyes, his voice firm and sincere. "Izzy, listen. Those rumors were completely fabricated and malicious. It's true that I initially misjudged you, and our deal was a mistake made in desperation. I apologize for that." He paused, moving closer. "But what I felt for you after the party, and especially over the past few days, was completely real. My admiration for your talent, my respect for you as a person, and yes, my feelings for you were real. Izzy, completely real. The reason I offered you this job was because I believed in your abilities, believed you were worthy, and believed you would be a valuable asset to Thorn Industries." The sincerity in Ethan's voice and eyes made Izzy's heart flutter, but she was still skeptical. "What about the rumors?" "I'll take care of it," Ethan said, his voice firm. "No one has the right to tarnish your reputation, or that of any employee of this company." The next morning, Ethan called an emergency meeting with the entire board of directors and department heads, including Marcus Vance. The atmosphere in the room was tense. Ethan, with a cold face and a steely voice, got straight to the point. He didn't mention Izzy by name, but he talked about the importance of a professional, respectful work environment where gossip and defamation of colleagues for personal gain or to satisfy jealousy were not allowed. Thorn Industries is built on a foundation of talent, integrity, and hard work, Ethan declared, his eyes scanning each face. "We do not tolerate any behavior that goes against those values." Recently, there have been baseless, malicious rumors circulating within the company, targeting a potential employee, a person of proven, exceptional talent. He paused, looking directly at Marcus Vance, who was starting to pale. I want to be clear, all hiring and promotion decisions at Thorn Industries are based on merit and actual contribution. Anyone who attempts to undermine the company's reputation or cause internal division through false statements will face serious consequences. Ethan then made a grand announcement about Isabella Rossi's appointment as Senior International Relations Officer, with specific responsibilities in upcoming projects, especially with Japanese and European partners whom she had impressed. He praised her linguistic talent, cultural understanding, and excellent communication skills. Marcus Vance stood rooted to the spot. He had not expected Ethan to act so decisively and so publicly. The meeting ended, and Vance was called into Ethan's office. No one knew exactly what had happened inside. But a few days later, it was announced that Marcus Vance had been demoted to a less important position and transferred to a distant branch. It was a severe punishment. A public humiliation for someone who had once considered himself indispensable. Vance's former followers were silent, even turning to look down on him with contempt. The anger at the villain had been satisfied. That night, Ethan went to see Izzy. She heard about what happened in the meeting and the decision regarding Vance. Ethan's determination and strength to protect her honor, deeply moved her. All the doubts in her heart disappeared, giving way to trust and warmth. "Thank you, Ethan," Izzy said, her voice sincere, "for everything." Ethan took her hand. "No need to thank me. Izzy, I did the right thing. And I want you to know, again," he looked into her eyes, his affection undisguised, "that I am completely captivated by you. Your intelligence, your talent, your kindness, and your strength in the face of adversity. I know we started out unconventional, even a little crazy, but I fell in love with you, Izzy Rossi. I want to have a real chance with you, not as boss and employee, but as two people who found each other in the most unexpected of circumstances." Tears of happiness rolled down Izzy's cheeks. She smiled. "I have feelings for you too, Ethan. I tried to deny them, out of fear, out of invisible barriers, but I couldn't." She squeezed his hand. "And about the job offer, I accepted. Not because of you, but because it was the opportunity I'd always dreamed of, where I could reach my full potential. And if I could build a career alongside the man I love, then what could be better?" Ethan's bright smile seemed to dispel all the darkness. He gently pulled her into his arms, placing a gentle and promising kiss on her lips, marking the beginning of a new chapter, brighter and more genuine. Izzy Rossi started her new job at Thorn Industries with all her enthusiasm and ability. It didn't take her long to prove that Ethan's offer was not just based on emotion or temporary favor. During negotiations with Japanese partners, Izzy's deep understanding of culture and language helped to untangle many knots, building trust and absolute respect from them. The contract worth hundreds of millions of dollars was quickly signed, bringing a great victory to Thorn Industries. With European partners, Izzy also demonstrated incredible professionalism and adaptability. She was not only an excellent interpreter, but also a skillful negotiator, a talented diplomat, always knowing how to harmonize the interests of all parties. Colleagues in the company, who were initially a bit reserved, were now completely convinced by her talent and serious, humble working attitude. The previous malicious gossips had completely disappeared, replaced by admiration and respect. Izzy was not only the CEO's girlfriend, but also a true professional, a rising star of Thorn Industries. Ethan and Izzy's relationship also developed naturally and strongly. They no longer hid their feelings. Initially, there were some curious gossips, but when people witnessed their sincere love for each other, Ethan's respect for Izzy, and especially her undeniable ability, those gossips quickly gave way to approval and even blessings. They became a beloved couple in the company, the talented CEO and the smart, charming international relations expert. Maria Rossi was probably the happiest person. Seeing her daughter not only find a job that matched her talent, but also find a good man who loved and cherished her. She could not have asked for more. She continued her job at Thorn Industries, but now, every time she pushed her cleaning cart through the hallways, people looked at her with more respect, And Ethan, every time he saw her, greeted her politely and affectionately. "Good morning, Maria." 1 year later, Thorne Industries held a grand party at the Astor Ballroom, St. Regis Hotel, to celebrate a year of outstanding international success, especially the successful expansion into Asia and Europe. Achievements that Izzy contributed in no small part to. This time, Ethan Thorne and Isabella Rossi walked side by side, no longer as a CEO and his girlfriend in a temporary arrangement, but as a real, powerful, respected, and loved couple. Izzy, in a gorgeous burgundy evening gown, her long hair flowing in soft waves, stood on the podium. She confidently shared the company's achievements, switching flexibly between English, Japanese, and French when talking about specific markets, leaving all the guests, both domestic and international, in awe. Ethan stood in a corner, silently observing the woman of his life. His eyes were filled with love, pride, and endless admiration. When Izzy finished her speech to thunderous applause, he approached and gently took her hand. "You're amazing, Izzy," he whispered in her ear, loud enough for only her to hear. "I still can't believe my luck when I took the risk of hiring the beautiful and talented daughter of the office cleaner as my fake girlfriend." Izzy laughed, her smile bright and happy. She turned back, looking deep into his eyes. "And I can't believe that crazy offer led me to the love of my life." They looked at each other. No more words needed. Their sweet and passionate kiss under the sparkling crystal lights was a testament to a love that had overcome all barriers of social status, narrow-minded prejudices, and the challenges of fate. A love that began from an ironic situation, was nurtured with sincerity, respect, and true talent, and then came to a perfect, complete ending. Ethan and Izzy's story proves a simple truth. Love and talent can be found in the most unexpected places. And when your heart tells you to, have the courage to follow it, because true happiness always awaits those who are worthy. Resilience, kindness, and wisdom will always shine through, despite all adversities. And in the end, sincerity will always win. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this story. If you love this story, don't forget to click like to support the channel. Share this story with family and friends, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any stories.